How's it going, everyone? I hope you're all well. So here we have the Kingdom Hearts 3 Terra Bring Arts action figure. Terra is one of my favorite Kingdom Hearts characters. It's not everyone's favorite. I know he's a very like Anakin Skywalker type of character. Some people like him, some people don't care. I personally have taken to this character. So it's nice to see that he finally has an actual action figure of him and not a static figure. And even static figures, he doesn't have much going for him. So for the Bring Arts line, they have done Aqua and Ven, but I skipped out on those because Bring Arts figures and even Play Arts, I'm super selective on who I'm going to buy for those two lines because I'm not generally attached or impressed by this kind of line. I don't really like the quality of it and the value for money. I think they're very expensive for what they are. So I tend to stick with the safe bets of Figma and SH Figuarts for the most part. With that said, here's the packaging of Terra, so you can see him nice and clear in the window display box. He comes with an alternate head with his eyes closed like so, you can see right there, plus the Xehanort face as well. Should be slightly more tan, I think, on the face in terms of skin tone, but then it will look super different from his arms. You get alternate hands here. I'm guessing the base thing is a little bit new because I don't remember Sora or Riku having those. And then two Keyblades, which look pretty good in the box as well. So in terms of display, it's nicely presented, so you could just leave it there if you're more of a sealed collector. On both sides, you just have the monogram stuff for Kingdom Hearts, and then on the back, you've got some photos of the character as well. And the top and bottom are just like so. So pretty simple stuff. Very reminiscent of the Sora and Riku from what I recall, and I don't think anything's changed in between that. But let's get this open and see what the figure's all about. So everything in the box is laid out in front of me, and I'm going to go through the parts, then the figure. By the way, it's super hot in here, so I've got the fan on in the background. So first you get the stand, which comes on a heart base, which is pretty much the same thing that Sora came with as well, and I'm guessing all the other Kingdom Hearts Bring Arts figures. And you get two versions of the claw attachment. So you've got a narrow version, and then a slightly wider grip as well. Terra also comes with some alternate hands, so you've got the open palm hands, so one for the left hand, which is the gloved hand, and then a plain hand without the gloves. I like that it's now on a base like this. Figma has something similar as well, but I think I actually prefer it like this. So the hands are sculpted nicely, and the paint on the gloves is not bad actually, it's all nicely done. You've got a little bit of bronze right there at the wrist section, which is cool. And then you get another pair of hands, which is to actually hold and grip the Keyblades. So again, gloved hand and ungloved hand, like so. So it's cool that they've got the part like base, you might say. Then you get two alternate heads. So you got the default head already on him, and then you get one which is of Terra with the closing eyes. So this is when he's kind of focusing or reflecting deeply. Generally, the sculpts on all the heads are really cool. The paint is pretty much quite plain, so just brown actually all on the hair, and then the flesh tones as well. So it's not really got any shading on it. Some people might be disappointed with that, but I actually don't mind it for this figure. I think overall the head sculpts are pretty good. Just when you swap the heads, the actual peg here can sometimes slip, and since you're swapping the entire head, no faceplate, it can be a bit annoying, so you're just gonna have to kind of fiddle with the peg like this, center it, and then aim for the neck hole to attach it. I'll show you that later on. Then the cool head, that one was cool too, but another cool head that you get is actually the Norted head, so Terra Xehanort, where he gets taken over by Xehanort, Master Xehanort. And then his hair turns white. So I've got a slightly bright light on here, but there's a bit of a silvery. It's more of a silvery look than actually a plain white look. So that's kind of how it should be, which is fine. The only issue I take with this one, or for my one in particular, I feel the eyebrows on this one are slightly lower than the actual brow ridge, in my opinion. Yeah, I think it's just probably my one. Yours might be a little bit different. But again, the sculpt is quite good. The hair is pretty much the same as the brown hair one, just now colored differently. But otherwise, I like the sculpt. You can see, by the way, the Xehanort colored eyes, so the orange eyes, which is pretty cool as well. Then the other cool additions for Terra are the Keyblades. So you get the Earth Shaker, I think that's what it's called, which is like so. So the colors may be a little bit off compared to what you may recognize in some of the games and some other kind of art materials, but otherwise it's fairly accurate. But this is the design, and it looks pretty good. So this is what you start with Terra in Birth by Sleep, and it's pretty much his default Keyblade for the most part. So pretty good. The guard here looks quite nice. You just have to detach it here to then slip it into the gripped hands, and then slip this back on. So it's pretty easy to do. Then you got the charm at the end here. The charms, I'm not really a big fan of the way the Bring Arts figures do these charms. So if you recall or have seen my Fig Arts videos for Sora, these are real links, metal links on the Fig Arts version. Here they're still molded plastic. Just a metal addition to this would make this a lot better than it currently is. So the second Keyblade that Terra comes with is this awesome one. So the no-name Keyblade, also known as the Gazing Eye. I'm not sure if this particular Keyblade has been made in the Play Arts figures. But for the Bring Arts, this is probably brand new. This is a super cool design. I love this design of the Keyblade from the games themselves. So seeing this in an action figure finally is very, very, very cool. I love it. I really actually do like the design of this Keyblade. In terms of material quality, it's just plastic. It doesn't feel anything special personally, but the paintwork on it is pretty solid, I have to say. So here you've got the face here on the guard, and then going down to the two shafts, two blade bits, and then the key bit, let's say, and then the gazing eye right here. Same thing on the other side. So the detail on this is pretty good. By the way, you've got the guard as well. Similarly, you have to pull that bit off here. So this is actually fits one way only. And when I do show you how to attach it to the hands, it makes you realize actually how awkward wielding a proper Keyblade like this in real life would be, because these little bits just jab into his thumbs or like onto his wrists and stuff. So not practical really, but it looks pretty cool. Here you got the charm again, which again is just molded plastic. It looks a bit better than the other one, but again, if they did real links, I would really appreciate that more, and it would just kind of finish the design of the Keyblades a lot better in my opinion. Generally though, I do like both Keyblades. I think they look pretty good actually. This is probably my favorite one. Really good design Keyblade so far. I think those are my favorite things for most Bring Arts figures and play arts are the Keyblades themselves. So moving on to the figure, we'll take a look at the details and then I'll go through the articulation. So just like the head sculpts, the alternate ones I've shown you before, this is a nice sculpt as well for the basic default Terra head. Looks good, very neutral expression. The eyes on it are really, really solid as well. Really nice blue eyes, you can see. Not the most expressive of expressions, of course, but for me, I think it's fine. It's neutral, that's okay. Having a second sculpt where it was the Xehanort one with, let's say, an angry face would have been really cool. Once upon a time, I used to have similar hairstyle like this. Not gonna lie, true story. Now I'm losing my hair. Then moving on to the body and torso, you can see the straps, red straps painting down his chest as well and sculpted and molded. You can see that, and that goes onto the back as well. Got the other details on the dark black or dark grey areas underneath his armpits, like so. Of course, you got the armor on his left arm. So this is actually a soft kind of rubbery material. So my only worry with this is it cracking over time as you bend and rotate and articulate the arm. So this might crack as it does things like that as it folds. That's my main worry. It's a bit more solid here. The rest is again softer material, even down here as well up to the elbow bit. Then it returns to solid sculpted plastic down onto his forearm. But otherwise, I like the way it looks. The paint's pretty good as well. I like the kind of gold look and then the bronze. General paintwork on the armor is pretty good in my opinion. Plain on the other side, you just get this little wrist strap here, let's call it that. Then you come down to his skirt. I'll talk more about his skirt in more detail later, but this, in terms of how it looks okay in a neutral position. There's nothing special, but you can start seeing some cuts in the way it works down here, which is not great from the backside view, so that could have been a lot better. Something I want to say about a lot of Bring Arts figures is their trademark markings really need to not be so obvious on the figures. Put it on the foot or something like that, like on the base of the foot or somewhere else, but not here. I really don't like the way these guys do it. Bring Arts need to move this stuff somewhere else. But otherwise, the skirt doesn't look too bad. You got the Keyblade Master symbol here, and then the belt strap. Sadly, the belt straps don't do a lot. They kind of just sit flat. And then further down, you got the flare of the skirt here. And then I'll give you a preview of what's there. You can see that underneath there. So looking from underneath side, it's not pleasant. I'll tell you that much. It's not very pleasant. But his boots then look okay. I don't mind them. I like the sculpt of them. I think the paint on this bit, the gold bit, could have been a little bit more vibrant to add a little bit more pop. But generally speaking, I think it looks okay. But in terms of details and the way the figure looks and it's sculpted, I think it's pretty good. Then going on to the articulation. So things get a little bit sour there. So moving up, you can see he goes up about that much. He's got long hair, so it kind of stops him a little bit, and the neck kind of pops out just a bit. Down as well, that's a bit too much, and then his neck could pop off. Down is around this much, and then you can tilt his head side to side. Again, it might pop up a little bit if you go too far, and then you can look left and right, like so. So that's okay. Then the shoulder, I'm going to show you the right shoulder first. Sometimes the right shoulder does pop off. It can pull down like so, and then you can rotate it around. It's got a cut at the bicep right here, which is not even that obvious, which is nice as well. You got the bend at the elbow like so, and then the wrist kind of twists and does all it needs to right there. On the other side as well, you can do the same thing with that, but as I mentioned, you might end up creasing the arm a bit here. But his arm only really goes up about that much. You can pull it down as well, just like the right arm. Same, the bend here, it can bend relatively well, even with the armor on. And then the wrist is also the same, there's no restriction of movement. Torso wise then, you can twist like so, and then lean like so, and then lower twist down at the belly bit or waist bit, like that, leaning back, pretty good amount, but then you get exposed gaps there near the skirt, and then leaning forward like so, which is okay as well. Then we get to the main problem of this figure, which is really a downer. This is the worst part of the figure by a long shot, and it's frankly quite terrible. So just looking at the skirt, you can kind of see where it's going with this. So let me show you what I mean with his skirt being pretty terrible. So you can see right there, when you split his legs, you got a hunk of rubber just in the center here. What is that? It's ugly, it doesn't do anything. This whole thing just restricts his movement of the legs. You can split his legs like this. You can hear that click, right? So that's all you're going to get really out of him. Nothing crazy, nothing good, to be quite honest. And then similarly, you're going to have even worse problem front to back, and you can see how it splits, and how it splits here on the outer edge, which is even worse. So it's not very good, sadly. I don't know why they went with this weird thick rubber skirt. It's just pretty awful. So yeah, trying to lift his legs up. You can see now that the rubber comes out, flicks up, and you can see he's clear as day, got a whole leg down there. So it comes all the way down to his foot. And here I also showed you very briefly earlier on, you got the ankle bit here for his shoe that kind of rides up his calf, you could say. But yeah, it kind of just, yeah, it's all just a mess, to be quite honest. The rubber comes out here, and then from the back you got these two flaps here. I'm just going to take it all out because why not. And there his leg fell out as well, which does happen sometimes. Let me just show you this. Just going to take out the whole rubber bit here. These are the back side of his legs. Putting his leg back in, I won't do it this way. It's easy to just feed it through here, and that's it easier. It's still a bit of a hassle, but you can do it. Yeah, you can see how annoying this whole thing is. Without this skirt thing, I'm sure his articulation on the legs are probably going to be pretty reasonable, but with this skirt, it's incredibly restricted to the point that I got so fed up of just trying to pose this guy in any sort of action poses. It's just not really that possible. So he's good for neutral poses and standing poses, but when it comes to anything else with legs wide apart, leaping, etc., it's not even that good. You can't even get like a knee decently bent because you bend it like that, and you know, it's not too bad. It looks okay, but then you let go and it just kind of resets and it just looks terrible. And this is going to be even worse once I put this back in. So honestly, long story short, with this skirt, it's rubbish. So yeah, in terms of articulation, the legs are just a complete write-off in my opinion, which is a shame because other than the legs, which is a huge part of a figure, don't get me wrong, the articulation wasn't bad, but the legs just really are quite important for a Kingdom Hearts character because, you know, they're going to be jumping around and so on and so forth, doing a lot of action stuff with their Keyblade. So the legs are really poor. So I'm going to try to get his leg in, so I'm going to leave this out and then see, just put the joint flat, put my thumb there, and then just line it up inside like so. It's not that easy to do, like it's just a bit of annoyance. So you just kind of have to hope that it drives it in a bit. I don't know if I've got that. Looks like it's in. Here you can see it's in, but it's not super snug. Once you got the leg back in, just put the flaps back in, like so. This one here goes in. The other leg, like I said, this thing is just a huge, ugly, giant mess, and I don't know why they've gone with this. Just put the back flaps here. So even once you've got the flaps in, I mentioned earlier that these cuts here, they just look really ugly from behind. From the front, sculpt is not bad, and in the standing position, yeah, not bad. He looks good. But yeah, articulation and everything else like that for the skirt is pretty poor. So moving away from that really poor bottom half of the figure, let's just kind of swap out the head first. So take out the default head. You see the neck hole there. Now for me, the default head, just like with Sora now, the hole is too expanded, so it just kind of slides in way too easily and comes out way too easily. So there's very little friction on there, so his head's just going to end up falling out pretty easily down the road. Let's swap the Xehanort, Master Xehanort, Terranort head. So line it up. Bit annoying sometimes with this because the back bit of his hair can get in the way, but there we go, it's in. So he's looking pretty decent already. Now his skin tone, by the way, is about the same. Then let's swap out the hand to this Keyblade. We're going to use this one because the Earth Shaker is all cool and all, but you know, let's just use the other one, which name just escapes me, the gazing eye, because why not? So you can put the hand on first if you want to, or you can do that later. I'm going to put it on right now. And then, as I mentioned earlier, what you got to do with this is just pull it here. Just be a little bit careful as you do it. Mine was a bit stuck in the beginning out of the packaging because this shaft here is a little bit long by design, but because of that length, it means it's a thinner, longer piece, and you may end up permanently breaking that, which would be a shame. So just go a bit easier on that. Well, then all you got to do is just feed that into the relevant hand. Put it on his left hand if you really want to, and then just put this back on. Remember, this keyblade only goes one way. It's a flat end edge there. Just light him down a bit because the guard can poke into his hand, so it makes it a little bit tricky here. Let me just see what I'm doing. Yeah, there we go. Lined it up. And yeah, put that back, and there we go. He's holding the keyblade. Maybe his hand should be the other way, but it's fine. You can see what I mean. That if this were a real keyblade, it's a little bit impractical, right? Because look, the wings here on the guard kind of just poke into his knuckles, top part of his hand, which is gonna probably be quite painful. There we go. His arm has also come off, which does happen occasionally. It's not actually too bad. I can put it in quite easily. For now, it's not overly loose. It's only if I put a little bit too much pressure on the joint, then it will pop off. But otherwise, it's not too bad. There we go. He's got the no name or gazing eye keyblade attached as well, and he looks really cool. Like I said, standing pose with the keyblade and everything. It's a very good figure in that sense. It's sculpted really nicely for that most part. Swap it with the other keyblade, this one, the Earth Shaker, if you want as well. Another good look. Dual wield him if you want to as well. That's an option too. So after doing the keyblade and swapping the heads, that's pretty much all there is to this figure. Now, in general, I think the figure is good, which is kind of surprising because I'm not a huge fan of bring art figures. But maybe it's just my bias of Terra. The sculpt in general is pretty good. It's just the articulation because of this terrible skirt and the way it's been molded and designed. It's just so bad that this is what lets down the entire figure. So if you can get past the skirt, then maybe get this figure. Also, I would consider getting it on sale maybe. But just keep that in mind no matter what. Just keep that in mind whenever you buy it, that the skirt is really poor. If you're pretty good at modding stuff or customizing stuff, then you can just probably change this to some fabric material and you'll get a hugely better figure out of it. If Square Enix decide to do a 2.0 upgrade or play arts version of Terra, I hope they can fix this, and I'd be keen to see how they fix that. With all that said, I hope you enjoyed having a look at this Terra Figma with me. I hope we get more Terra merchandise down the road as well, because I'm a big fan of the character. Feel free to check out my channel for more action figure and merchandise stuff, and I'll see you in the next one.